The survivors of a helicopter crash off the Auckland Islands have reunited to tell their harrowing tale. Pilot Andrew Hefford, winch operator Lester Stevens and paramedic John Lambeth disappeared when their helicopter went off the radar on Monday night during a routine medical evacuation. Huddled together for warmth, stuck on a remote sub-Antarctic island as a front closed in, the men say they never lost hope that they would be found. Our reporter Tess Brunton was at this afternoon's media conference in Te Anau.
St John paramedic John Lambeth recalls the moments after their helicopter crashed into the water.
I can freely admit there was a few seconds of sheer panic there. Released myself, I floated up and hit into an object up above me, and certainly to my own mind, I'm going to drown, and threw myself out of that and then out and popped up.
He moved towards the rear of the helicopter where he saw the limp form of his friend.
Lester beside me here was unresponsive, lying in the helicopter and the back of it filling up with water. He started yelling to the other side, so immediately there was some relief that the guys are with us. We're here, I could briefly see the outline of Lester lying there, and I pulled him out of the fuselage, the rear end of it, and then Hef joined us up, and we just started to get a game plan between me and Hef, what we needed to do, and by that time the helicopter was gone.
Without his help, winch operator Lester Stevens is unlikely to have survived. Mr Stevens, who broke his nose and was temporarily knocked unconscious, says he had quite a different experience to the other crew members at the start.
Well, comparatively, my experience was very relaxed. I can't recall anything until I woke up on my back in the water, and someone was saying something about swimming, and I was wondering what the hell they were talking about really. Had no idea where I was, why I was swimming at that stage. But
once they escaped the helicopter, their struggle was far from over. Silhouettes of the cliff faces loomed ahead as they began to swim towards shore, helping Mr Stevens swim as he also had an injured shoulder. Then it took hours to navigate the slippery kelp and rocks below the cliff face before they could find a way to higher and drier ground. They found a hollowed-out log, cutting ferns to create a buffer from the cold ground, and hunkered down together for a long, cold night without food or water. But pilot Andrew Hefford says it was reassuring knowing people were out searching for them.
We heard the Orion, and it made us feel a bit more confident knowing that, okay, they know something's happened. They'll be looking for us in the morning. We did jump out and try and flash the torch up in the air. We didn't see the Orion, but thought maybe they might see it. Did that a couple of times when they passed over, but in the end we thought, no point getting up full time. So.
He tried to add a bit of comfort to the night, with limited success.
We had our life jackets on, but we didn't inflate them, and I'm kind of glad we didn't. They would have been a hindrance. As we found out later on in the night, when I inflated mine to use as a pillow, but then he strangled me, so it would have slowed us down.
He says Hewitt helicopter training kept them alive with help from their immersion suits. The next morning they moved down onto the beach, where they were found by his boss, Southern Lakes helicopter owner Sir Richard Hayes.
It was a very nice feeling. Yeah, they jumped out of the helicopter, came and hugs all around. Never thought I'd ever get a hug off my boss, but there you go.
They were all discharged from hospital earlier in the week. Mr Stevens with a broken nose and dislocated shoulder, Mr Hefford with a fractured back, and Mr Lambeth with fractured ribs. Throughout it all, Lester Stevens says their family were never far from their thoughts.
Even from the very first time that we got out of the water, I think we were all thinking about the fact that once they know that this has happened, and they would probably know reasonably quickly, everyone was going to be worried sick, and we were concerned that everyone would be told and they'd be thinking the worst, but we couldn't sort of let anyone know that we were all reasonably okay, really.
Their ordeal hasn't deterred any of them from getting back into a rescue chopper. All three say they will return to the skies once they get medical clearance. In Te Anau for Checkpoint, Tess Brunton, Te Anau.